Good evening and welcome. You're watching Breaking Views with me, Sanket Upadhyay, the only show where we get you all the views so that you get the complete picture. Now we would start this show by showing you a picture. This is a news story, a news article, a remarkable piece of journalism done by the newspaper, the Indian Express, where they showed pictures of a man who's a top babu in the Delhi government. Top. And he decided to go out for a walk. Now you would say there is nothing wrong in this. Anyone can go for a walk. But inside a stadium, that too when the stadium is emptied of all the athletes, so that the babu, the bureaucrat, can walk along with his family and also a dog. Tonight on this show, we are not asking a question but making a statement. A stadium is for athletes, not for dog walking babus, whatever the explanation may be. And in this context, we are asking 5 questions of this top bureaucrat. Let's put those 5 questions on screen. Big question number 1. How can an IAS officer treat the stadium like his private garden? How can you? How is this acceptable? Number 2, should action not be taken against an officer for misuse of government property? This is misuse. Very clearly, which rule in the service rule says that a minister, that a babu can empty a stadium and have an evening walk inside a stadium? Is this not a misuse of government property? In his explanation, athletes allege that they were pushed out by guards. Doesn't this amount to intimidation? Was this done at the behest of this babu, that quickly clear out the ground? I need to go for a walk, and my dog too. Shouldn't Delhi's Principal Secretary Revenue, Sanjeev Khirwar, resign? There is pressure mounting now. This is violation. You can't do this. It smacks of vvip culture. If this is not vvip culture, what is? These are extremely fundamental questions. On this show, we'll be asking all these questions. Of course, Mr. Khirwar was unavailable. We tried to reach out to him. But we have a panel of guests. We'll ask them this question. But more importantly, I would like to introduce the men who got us this story. Andrew Amsan and Abhinav Saha. Abhinav Saha is the video journalist and Andrew Amson is the reporter with the Indian Express. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I really want to thank you for this stellar piece of journalism. It's really such an honor to do this show and to speak to you for what you've done. Andrew, would you like to tell our viewers?
Our pleasure.
Would you like to tell our viewers how did you land a story like this?
This has been happening since quite some time. So a few athletes, I'm always on the ground, so I keep meeting athletes, and some of them told me that such a situation is prevailing here at the Tyagaraja Stadium. So when I was told about this, I honestly didn't believe them. So I said I'll come. So I visited at least thrice. I saw it with my own eyes. I tried to take a photograph, but I couldn't manage with my limited skills. I came and observed that around 6:30, between 6:30 to 6:40, these guards start moving to the track and start whistling, and that's when they ask the athletes to pack up and cool down. Pack up and leave. So, and I somehow managed to stay around and witness what used to happen around 7:30. After 7:30, the officer used to come in his car and take a stroll with the dog. But I couldn't manage any evidence or a photograph on my own. So that's how then I spoke to my editor, and then Abhinav joined the investigation, and he was with me as well.
How many days did it take you, Andrew? I'm going to ask Abhinav also some questions, but how many days did it take you? Can you hear me, Abhinav? Andrew, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yeah, now I can. So we visited. I visited at least 3 times. Abhinav, I think four times. So
You know, this is classic reporting. I mean, there is no substitute to this being on the ground and positioning yourself. Abhinav, would you like to tell us how did you place the cameras? How did you figure out that we need to get a photograph? How else would you have been able to expose him? Like, you knew that there is a story, but you needed proof.
Of course, sir. Thank you, sir, for giving us this opportunity and admiring our work. I'm a photojournalist. I work with Indian Express. So when Andrew came to me saying that there has been something going on in Thiagraj Stadium, that a top-notch bureaucrat, he is coming to the stadium after 7:30, and before that the guards are somehow blowing the whistles and asking all the athletes to go out of the stadium so that he could take a stroll with his dog. So that sound interesting to me. So when I came on the first day, so I took a corner and tried to get a picture and to observe what's happening. So on that day it started to rain and he didn't arrive. So again I came on the another day, but guard asked me to leave the ground. Then I took the third attempt from a Barapula flyover because it's adjacent to this Thiagraj Stadium. So I couldn't get the picture either. So on the fourth attempt, that was day before yesterday, when I came to the Sacrosanct Stadium, I had something in my mind that probably today again the guard could ask us to leave the stadium. So when I observed from the ground, I could see few buildings that has been under construction under DDA. So then I thought that if I can see the building from here, then I can see this ground from that building as well. So I and Andrew went on that building and we climbed on stairs for like 12 floors, and we waited for another half an hour because we reached there at 7:10, 7:05, and at 7:40, around 7:40, a white Octavia arrived into the Thiagraj Stadium, and it went all along through the running track on the road, and it took a U-turn and came at the center point from where the athlete gets inside the track, and a dog and two guys came out of the car, and the dog started to stroll, and those two people who were like walking around, and then few moments later another car arrived and a lady came out of that car, and those three were taking a walk on the running track, and that's when I got that picture which got published today newspaper.
No, remarkable, the two of you, that you were able to expose this activity, because otherwise it would have been going on as usual. And people get so used to this VVIP culture that they think, fine, I mean, this is the reality, what to do. But thank you so much for bringing this to the notice of this nation. Do stay on, because Andrew as well as Abhinav, the effort that you have made at the Indian Express, many athletes and sports journalists are going to, I'm sure, join me in congratulating you for what you have done and also highlighting this plight, because there's some action that has taken place. I would like to introduce Mr. Ayaz Memon, senior sports journalist. Baichung Bhutia, former captain of the Indian football team, is also with us, and we have Ashwini Nachappa, former athlete. Thank you very much, ma'am, for joining us. I want to begin with you, Mr. Baichung Bhutia. This picture, which has been brought to us courtesy Abhinav's lens and Andrew's pen, what comes to your mind when you see something like this? Or has VIP culture just been normalized in this country? It's normal for a Babu to go out for a stroll on a racer's track. Mr. Bhutia, if you could unmute yourself.
First of all, I would like to congratulate and thank Indian Express and NDTV to bringing this story, I think, to the national media.
This is completely Indian Express's effort. But we are only debating this and amplifying their voice. It's their effort, Mr. Bhutia.
Yes. So for a sports person like me, I don't think it's anything new. We've seen this happening in different parts of the states as well. And I'm sorry, I would like to share my own story as well here. Even my own state, Sikkim, we had a good public football ground. where the government 2 years ago, they made a hospital on that public ground. And I was the one to protest, saying that you could have made the stadium hospital in different place rather than the public playing ground. And that was when, few of their cronies, their supporters came and burned an effigy out of me. So it's sad that today, when we have such heat wave around in different parts of the country, we need to see state governments opening up the stadiums till late night for athletes to train. But here we're just trying to make sure that athletes go away at 7. We have limited infrastructure, first of all. And the ones we have as well are just not given for the time where we need to be training. And especially in summertime, I think a lot of state governments where there is a heat wave going on, we need to be opening stadiums till the late night. And this is the best example where a bureaucrat can walk his dog after 7 p.m. and open the stadium, but athletes can't train. So I think this story would also open up a lot of eyes for other state governments to open up their stadiums and let athletes train beyond 7 p.m. as well, because summertime is difficult for athletes to train during the heat wave.
Yes, Rahul Mehra is also now with us. Mr. Mehra, I want to ask you a simple question. What action can follow in this case? I know the Delhi government cannot take any action against Mr. Khirwar because he reports to the central government, to the Ministry of Personnel. But if this is happening in the national capital, imagine what is happening in the back of beyond of this country. Babus are running this country like like their personal territory.
Yeah. So Sanket, first of all, it's a extremely unfortunate incident to have happened, and the way it's all unfolded. I'm glad that immediate remedial measures have been taken. But there are 2 or 3 observations that I would like to make.
Sure.
One, that the Honorable Delhi High Court today in the morning, also in my PIL, one of my PIL on sports, has also asked the Delhi government and the central government through the Sports Authority of India to open up immediately, at least consider opening up immediately at least 3 of the stadiums, which is, one is Tyagaraja, the other is Chhatrasar, and the third is Shivaji. And they have, the court has also asked them to consider opening it from 5 in the morning till 10 in the evening. So that's one. The Honorable Chief Minister of Delhi, probably simultaneously or just before that, has already taken a proactive measure and a corrective measure by saying that all stadiums will be open till 10 in the evening. As far as the particular officer is concerned, in the past I've been associated with the Delhi government, and I have worked very closely with various officers, including the gentleman in question, Mr. Khirwar. Professionally, he's a very fine gentleman. I know him personally. I've worked with him. I don't know what has gone wrong. It's very unfortunate. It shouldn't have happened at the first place. First of all, stadiums can't be shut at 7 in the evening, and it's a good measure by Delhi government that they have opened it till 10. I would say, Baichung, Ashwani, Ayaz, all of them are here. One thing in unison, I think all of us would say that, the focus needs to come back to the athlete. Every decision which is taken has to be keeping in mind athlete interest and sporting interest. Unfortunately in this country, it is more name dropping. It is politicians, bureaucrats, all sorts of people who man these sports bodies, and that's where the problem lies. Secondly, I would say that, all these school playgrounds and others, after all these are what? These are from public funding, right? These are taxpayers' money that you build all these institutions.
Correct.
Why can't they be open to, neighborhood children during post-school hours or prior to the school hours? If there is security issue, address that. If there is manpower issue, address that. And which is exactly what the Honorable High Court today has also asked the 2 governments, the central and the state,
Correct,
to look into this particular aspect of opening up school grounds, which are at beautiful facilities, lavish grounds, something which you will be surprised to see in the heart of the city, in the capital city.
Correct.
And therefore, these are 2 brilliant corrective measures immediately within hours, which have been, which have been done. Unfortunately, one from the court and thankfully one from the government. One aspect I want to really highlight through your medium to everybody is, see, the Honorable Prime Minister takes pride, and which is great that, there is a Khelo India. But how will we have a Khelo India? We need to have Kholo India first. open up these spaces to children.
Sure.
Open up these spaces for
And don't just
recreation
open it up
purposes.
for
open up
bureaucrats
these spaces to
for what they want to do. It's not their private garden. I asked Memon, I want to come
yes,
to you.
or to politicians,
Yes, or the
bureaucrats or
politicians.
politicians,
Ashwini
even
Nachappa as well
politicians,
as
you will see.
I asked Memon are
these
also with
are
us.
these are used for what? Political activities.
Sure. Stadiums cannot be used for swearing in ceremonies, rallies. Use them for other things as well, or use them for what they're meant to be used for. Andrew as well as Abhinav do continue to stay on with us. I asked Memon and Ashwini Nachappa yet to speak. Mr. Memon, in his report, Andrew asked a question of this bureaucrat in question. And the question was very specific. How do you explain yourself? And he says, well, I didn't walk my dog or went out for a walk when athletes were there. I went after they left. As if this is a very reasonable thing to say. What was he doing there in the first place? Do you think that this is precisely the problem? The VVIP culture is so ingrained. They don't think there is anything wrong.
Sanket, I think, it's a sign of superciliousness. It's a sign of well-intentioned. He's come there. He wants to take his dog for a walk. It's not a crime to do that. But why should you do it at a stadium which is built for athletes? I think the first point I want to make is make this infrastructure, these facilities sacrosanct for athletes and sports persons. I take the point that Rahul has made that you are so ambitious, and we all are ambitious of making India a sporting nation, and Khelo India can be a very powerful force in doing that. But then Khelo India, make it accessible to the Aam Janta rather than to IAS officers who want to walk their dogs and whatever else. They can do it elsewhere. I also want to, applaud or laud Abhinav and Andrew for the drills that they've gone through. It's not often, in the media,
True.
We are forgetting that our job is to get a lead and pursue the story to its conclusion.
True.
And bring truth to power. We sometimes shy away from guys who may be influential or powerful and say, let's look the other way, theek hai, hamare baap ka kya jata hai. But no, I think this is important, and I must also then give credit to the editors, the sports editors. It might look like an innocuous sports story, but it's far more than that, as we all know now. So I think that, this needs to be, I don't want to comment too much on the media, but this really needs to be the way one should look at these issues and address them, rather than letting it, happen in front of our eyes and we keep blinking.
You're right, Mr. Memon. That's precisely the job. That is the job. This is the job. What Andrew and Abhinav have done, the reason why all journalists, all people have immediately been able to connect is because this is exactly what we as journalists are meant to do. Andrew, you asked this question of the bureaucrat. When you asked him this question that would you like to explain yourself, he said that I only walk the dog and go for a walk after the athletes leave. Did you ask him a question on whether that is acceptable?
It's a very basic question. The stadium belongs to the athlete. It's a professional stadium, and I asked the administrator as well as the officer in question, is it allowed to take your take your pet for a stroll on the professional track? There was no answer to it. So I've been covering athletics for some time. So you just you go to any track and you see these kids, the kind of love and affection they have towards the facilities. Even before entering the track, they will bow down and kiss the track. And this is their facility. Their facility. If they want to practice at 8, you have to open it at 8. If they want to practice at 9, you have to open it at 9. It's theirs.
Exactly. I think that's a very important point that has been made. Ashwini Nachappa, you see, for an athlete, that stadium is everything. That stadium is almost like it's like a temple. It's like going to a temple. And to treat it as a private garden, what would you like to say?
First of all, I'd like to thank Andrew and Abhinav for, really keeping a track on what is happening at the facility. because not very often you get to see it and have proof of it. But having said that, I think this thing has been going on for some time. It took courage for these people to actually stay, abreast of what is happening, cover it, and ensure that it's published. So I'd like to really congratulate Indian Express for even carrying it and bringing to light what is happening. Yes, for every athlete or every sports person, their respective field of play is the temple. It's also our second home. And for governments to spend that kind of money on infrastructure and see people in power misuse it is very, very unfortunate. It is a sense of, it's a classic case of entitlement that is being displayed over there.
I think that's the right word to use.
Yeah.
vvip culture that smacks of entitlement.
Yeah. And what is really, shocking is to see the insensitivity of the officer. I'm sure he has no clue whether it is a synthetic track or, natural turf or artificial turf. It doesn't matter to him, because what's important is his walk, his family's walk, and the dog's walk.
Respect the athletes. That's the message that is coming in from the athletes, from sports journalists, and great amount of respect for Andrew and Abhinav for getting this.
Absolutely.
Really, really congratulations, Andrew as well as Abhinav. Thank you very much, all of you for joining us.
Thank you.
We also have Reeth Abraham joining us. Thank you very much, Ms. Abraham. When you look at this picture, that when it came in this morning, what came to your mind?
I felt like crying.
Oh.
Okay. Saying that the athletes, even on the track, are hassled so much and they are not allowed to do what they are supposed to do. If an athlete can't train on a sports field, where else will he go? A bureaucrat can walk anywhere he wants with his dog. He need not have to come to a stadium to walk. So for me, it is whom do we blame? Is it the officials who are holding the sports department, or the bureaucrats who throw their weight around?
Ms. Abraham, does that
so
picture...
It's not the first time that we as athletes have come across this, because, even in Bangalore, we had to have a kind of an altercation with one of the bureaucrats who came with his wife to walk. And then we asked him to, move out of the track because the kids and us were doing track workouts with our spikes. And, both of us could get hurt when we are sprinting. But then he says, how dare you ask me to leave the track? Do you know who I am? And we said, sorry, we don't know who you are, but do you know who we are? We are Olympians who represent the country, brought glory to the country, won medal at the Asian level. Arjuna awardees, this is our space. And we have every right to ask you to move because we want to train here.
Correct.
And it was a tough task for us to ask him to this.
Correct. I mean, I understand why you're getting so emotional about this, Ms. Reeth Abraham, because this story has connected with each and every one, because that's the exact VVIP culture which all of us see around us. Does this picture define whatever is horribly wrong as far as the sports infrastructure, generally the way governance happens? Do you think that this picture is a true reflection of apathy? The story of every athlete, in fact.
I think it's the importance an athlete or a sports person is given in our country. Only when it comes to, winning medals in the international scene, everybody points fingers saying that, so much money is being spent, so much budget is made, but we don't win medals. But the insensitivity of most of the people is really sad. I mean, for instance, bureaucrats, they demand, if they did not go to the sports official and say that I want to walk on the track, because they generally throw their weight around. I know they do. So the officials in the sports departments are, intimidated or scared of these officials, and they have to agree to what they ask for. But they don't think twice about what an athlete feels. It's always the reason, why we athletes are treated like this.
Ms. Reeta Abraham, thank you very much for joining us. The point is, if we have responded so sharply to this story, if we feel so passionately about this, why can't this voice of the people, or vox populi, be heard? Where is the action against this bureaucrat? Or will we let him off the hook and then tomorrow perhaps give more wings to yet another bureaucrat to come, drive in, get in his family, get a dog also, and go for a walk? Good night and goodbye.